Wicked. Rick, how you doing, man?
Great. How are you, Zulu?
I'm excellent. I'm excellent. I'm just loving this like extended summer. This is like the global warming is a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. We went to the beach a couple days ago, and the water's like summertime temperatures still.
Beautiful. I was in the water in Tasmania recently. It was like 13 degrees or 14 degrees in the water. I was like, I had to do some Wim Hof breathing.
Yeah, yeah,
It was so good. And I know I've been up in like Noosa Way, and it's just like a warm bath when you go get in the water up that way.
yeah, yeah. That's where we are.
Talk to me about VisionQuest.
Um, what would you like to know?
How it begun, how it ended, how it became a thing, what it is, what and where it's going.
All right, all right. Well, just first say what it is. It is a process that I guide people through. It's a sequence of concepts and writing exercises that help you tune in very deeply to the subtle whisper of your soul and clarify a vision for your life and specifically for the next phase of your life. Um, and this vision is based on what makes you feel truly happy and fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
How it started was, well, I guess the first kind of there were kind of two key moments that led to the creation of this. The first was when I was 21 years old. I had been living actually on Java in Indonesia for a year, doing university over there, and I got sick at the end of that year, and it turns out that I had leukemia, and so I spent the next 8 months dealing with that, and had both conventional and non-conventional treatment. But I got to see at a young age that this life is temporary. And I had a mentor at that time too, Dr. Ted Orcutt. He's a psychologist in San Diego. That's where I grew up. And he started, working with me and asking me questions, and having me ask myself questions about what was truly important to me and what I wanted my life to be about. And I'd always been kind of a seeker, like into spirituality, and but there was, when you face your mortality, there's an urgency that comes up that you just don't experience in your normal life. Like when you're healthy and everything's good, you just feel like you have forever, and you have no context for anything else. All you can remember is waking up, and every day, wake up, you live your life, you go to sleep. And it just seems like it's going to be that way forever. When you face your mortality, anyone who has can tell you this. And we all have, most of us have our own version of that. Something scary that happens, or we lose a loved one or something like that. And it adds this, something wakes up in you and adds this urgency to life. So that was a time of when I was receiving those lessons, and it turned out to be one of the best things that ever happened to me. It was the most awake period of my life. It's super scary, but you really are present in a way that well, I was present in a way that I had never been before. So that's the first phase, and it was a time of receiving those life lessons. And for some reason, I had this belief that everyone kind of had to figure it out on their own, like learn from their own lessons, and you had your journey, and we might support each other a little bit, but it was mostly up to you to figure yourself out, and kind of wake yourself up, and it was up to me to figure myself out and wake myself up.
Mm.
And but that belief kind of pinched me off from the flow of what I was really here to give and my own purpose. And I only realized that after 13 years later. I created a retreat. It was at the time it was called Surf Life. So it was all about getting into the flow. Like, how do we experience that same sensation of flow and spontaneity and fun and being alive that you do when you're surfing a wave? How do you experience that in your daily life?
Mm.
And And I created a retreat for young adult cancer survivors because that was a group that I knew that I could help. You know, here I was 13 years later. I had, you know, 2 beautiful kids, an amazing wife, and I was healthy. And the reason that I hadn't done something like this so far, I mean, really, this had been in my heart since I'd gotten sick, pretty much. You know, of like, well, how can I help people have a similar process of awakening without having to go through cancer or, you know, a car accident or losing a loved one or something like that. And but I had those voices of self-doubt, you know, like, oh, I need more training. Who am I to you know, to be able to guide people through this process? I need to have my shit more together, you know, like all those voices of self-doubt that were in my head. But then I just got so mad at myself that I couldn't stand it. And I just went ahead and like scheduled it and created the Facebook event and found a venue. And
you're like, screw it, let's do it.
Dude, exactly. It was like, if I don't do this, I'm gonna regret it so bad. You know, I'm gonna hate myself if I don't at least try.
How long was it from the moment of like the idea came to you, and like the whole process of mulling it over, and then actually going, fuck it, I'm gonna just put the event up and do it?
All right. Well, it was, you know, I got sick. I would say there were 2 years after I got sick where I was just switched on, you know, like fearless and really doing whatever I wanted to do, whatever like my soul was calling me to do. It wasn't until maybe a couple years after that I got this idea that I wanted to guide people on a spiritual surf trip. Because this was just like my combination of my favorite things, you know? And then, so I had this kind of idea of what I wanted to do, what I dreamed of doing. But those voices of doubt were like, what is it exactly? You know, what are we going to do? Do I use someone else's process? Do I create my own? I for whatever reason, I just wasn't ready for it. And it was about probably 9 or 10 years. I mean, 13 years from when I got sick, but 9 or 10 years from when I had that vision that I didn't do it, you know, and I still had an amazing life and, you know, had a business, you know, I had business teaching surfing in Malibu. I had a business doing, guiding people on surf trips in Mexico. So really, you know, pretty cool and adventurous stuff. But what I really wanted to do was to guide people through that, you know, that inner process, that inner transformation, a spiritual journey. And so then the day came, I was so pissed off myself. I just scheduled it and ran it. And I had never experienced so much flow in my life as when I ran this retreat. And, you know, it was like we would go, it was in Coolangatta.
Yeah, nice.
And we stayed at a commune resort, commune, I forget what they call it now, maybe Hotel Commune, right on the beach at Coolangatta. And 5 people came, and it was amazing for them. And we would do things like get up at sunrise and do yoga up on the platform at Point Danger overlooking the ocean, and the sun was rising, the sky's red, it's the most beautiful scene. And then a whale would start breaching. And they're like, you know, it was just all these things was like the icing on the cake. We were getting the icing on the cake, you know, everywhere we turned, and people could just feel it. We would go out to eat and people around us would just turn and look at us because they could feel that something bigger was happening with this group. There was some greater intention, you know. And, you know, we were on the news. We were in the newspaper. A friend of mine who's a videographer came and filmed one day and interviewed us and made a beautiful documentary about it. So it's just like this support from the universe, you know. And every day we would feel like today was amazing, but we can't have our expectations up so high for tomorrow. There's no way it can match today. And then I don't know how it happened, but the next day was even better. I know we would just be at the end of the day, we'd be saying what we were grateful for from the day, the best moments and everything. And so it was a real confirmation that I was doing what I was really supposed to be doing. And then, you know, just to see the smiles and the tears that were in my participants' eyes, especially the last day, you know, we gave each other a group hug, and we could all feel that we were really had been part of something special.
So how long was it? How long was the process? Like,
so that was 5 days,
yeah.
that retreat. And then from there, and really that gave me a sense of fulfillment that I've never experienced before. That was just from giving what I was here to give, and in seeing it, land with other people and start to work on them. It worked. And yeah, so then from there, I ran about 5 more retreats for young adult cancer survivors. And then that was in 2010 that I started that. And then in 2012, I ran my first retreat in Bali, VisionQuest Bali retreat for just general public. And yeah, and then it's been a total of 40 retreats that I've done now in Bali and Australia.
Back to back, 6 years,
Yeah.
6 a year, something like that.
Yeah, it's changed. It started with like 2 retreats the first year, and then it grew up to like my busiest year was like 8 retreats, and then now I've kind of pulled it back to 3 retreats per year. Because I also have an online program, so my attention is kind of going both those directions.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And just rewinding a little bit to remind me of your mentor's name.
Dr. Ted Orcutt.
Ted Orcutt.
Yeah, Orcutt, Orcutt.
Orcutt, Ted Orcutt. So just rewinding to that time, what was going through your mind? What was going through your body? What was going on in your life? And what were some of the, I guess, downloads that you received and transmissions you received from him?
Well, this was a long time ago. So over 20 years ago. And some of that, most of it I can't remember the specifics, but a couple that I can say is kind of what I mentioned before, the urgency of life. This was a concept that he kind of introduced to me, because he was in some of our coaching, he would give me an assignment to do, like read a certain book, and I'd come back and see him the next week and I hadn't gotten the book yet, and he's like, why didn't you? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, there's an urgency to life. Like you of anyone realize that you're not going to be here forever. You don't know, how long you got. Like, do these things, whatever is truly important to you, do those things. And I think it was this kind of belief that I had a unique purpose, and his support with me trying to like uncover that. It just gets covered up in life from when we're kids and we go into the school system, and it's more about playing it safe and being responsible than shining in however you're meant to shine, even if it doesn't jive with the school system and the subjects, sit in a chair for 6 hours a day. So it was more the sort of like the process. And another specific thing was, one of his assignments was every day go out into nature and ask your spirit a question. And you just sit there and breathe and focus on this question and listen for the answer. And then when you get the answer, feed it back to like the next level of the question, whatever question it brings up. So I started to practice that. And that is something, that's a skill that I've worked on a lot. And that's a big part of the VisionQuest. And, something that I teach other people is to be able to hear that inner voice. My favorite way is to, with a pen, you write down what you hear, see what else that brings up. And you just sit there and breathe with your attention on the question, and write what you hear. And it's so powerful and it's so practical.
Yeah, 100%. That contemplation. That's a lot of people, because I teach meditation, I teach mindfulness as well. And a lot of people will say that, oh, I can't meditate, or I'm not doing it. I'm like, well, or I fall asleep is something that happens a lot. Like, oh, I just fall asleep when I meditate. And it's like, well, meditation for me is about listening. It's paying attention. It's being aware with all the senses, with the inner vision, with the inner hearing, the feeling, the sensation, is having that attentiveness. And that comes with that different kinds of meditation, which is the contemplation, the visioning, the different types of meditation for different purposes. But I feel that that's an important key. It's actually something that one of my mentors were the guy who taught me writing, which is Gil Scott Heron, which is my stepfather. And he was like, you want to learn, because I used to freestyle a lot, you know, freestyle with the rapping and the words and the poetry. And I said, oh, writing, I never thought about writing the stuff down. He said, well, if you want to write, this is how you do it. You just be quiet and you listen, you grab your pen, and then when, you know, you sort of maybe just like have an idea, maybe find like a beat or something, like a rhythm, and then you just listen. And then when you hear or you catch something, you grab it while you can, and you just let the pen flow, and you keep writing until you stop. If you find the pen stops, that means you're thinking too much again, and so, all right, be quiet and listen again, and then until you get the next thing and the next thing. So yeah, I can really relate to that listening piece that you mentioned.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same process as that, and it's a great like doorway to the meditative state, because in my opinion, we meditate to calm down the chatter, so you can hear that your soul's voice. And for some people, just to have a pen and paper there can give you that focus where you get to that state a lot quicker than just sitting and breathing. So it's a good alternative to kind of get people into that state.
No doubt. And I'm sure you've, over the past little while, you've had some pretty cool stories and like success stories or case studies. Can you share any of those with us?
Sure. Well, the one that's fresh on my mind right now is one of my clients, Adam Hudson. He came on his first retreat about 3 years ago, because a friend of his, Carmen Marshall, had come on the retreat the year before, and Adam was going through a tough time. He's from Australia but was living in Los Angeles and owned a couple of businesses, and was just not well, started to have panic attacks, and was hospitalized twice for panic attacks, and something was just out of alignment in his life. And so Carmen said, hey, you should go to Bali and do Rick's retreat. And he came. He did the process. It's a week-long retreat in Bali, and during his VisionQuest process, he wrote down that he wanted to get back into education. That was his passion and his purpose. So he created a course that teaches people how to make money on Amazon, because this is something, he's super switched on with business, great entrepreneur, great leader. And so he started to write this stuff down in his workbook. The next year he came on the retreat for a tune-up. This is something that you don't just clarify your vision once and then you coast the rest of your life. It's like, you're busy, you kick some goals, you achieve some dreams, and then it's time to up-level your vision, tune back into your soul again and up-level your vision. So he came back the next year, and his business had been open for 1 month. They spent the 11 months building the program, and they'd done 6 figures in sales in their first month, which was incredible. And he tuned in again for what's the next phase of that vision, how to keep the momentum building, but really keep it aligned with his soul's purpose and his soul's vision. And this last weekend, it's fresh on my mind, because this last weekend I went to an event that he ran for his clients. He's got now almost 4,000 students in this program.
Wow.
1,000 of them came to this event at the Brisbane Convention Center. And it's like, where do I begin? I say the most fulfilling thing for me is seeing this guy on stage and teaching. When you see him, he's so confident and relaxed and switched on up there that you're like, there's a man that's living his purpose. So personally, that's the most fulfilling thing for me, because this is what I do for people, is help you find that purpose and then create the structures, the actual things in your life that are going to allow you to fulfill that purpose, and give what you're here to give. And then he's, in addition to teaching his clients this stuff and changing their lives and helping them get out of the rat race, they're doing so much giving. Like, he's sponsoring eye surgeries in Indonesia. They've done about 500 eye surgeries, restoring people's vision. Like, some people are totally blind, and they do this 20-minute surgery for free, and people can see again, kids and old people especially. And then just, you know, helping women who've had a, you know, tough time, like we're in abusive situations, helping them get out of that and start their own Amazon businesses, and just really heartwarming stuff and changing people's lives in numerous ways. So this is, you know, that's an example. Yeah.
Awesome. That's incredible. Just going into the specifics, if you don't mind, like you said, creating those structures to help bring that vision to life. Are there some principles that's based on? Are there some, like, you know, core things that you teach in terms of how to create that structure to bring that vision? Because a lot of people I know, they're like, oh, I don't know exactly how to go about bringing that vision to life. You know, I have a vision, I know I'm here for something, but I don't quite know either what it is, or if I do know what it is, I don't know how to then organize my life in such a way to actually make it effective or efficient or possible.
Yeah, yeah. So the first thing is, what's really unique about this process is you will get more clear than you've ever been before about who you are and what you're really here to do. Some people have already an idea, like you said, of, you know, they say they were in my shoes. I want to run a spiritual surf trip, or I want to run and start an education business, or whatever that thing is. You have an idea of it, but the thing is that they're not clear enough to take the leaps that are required, because there are scary things. You know, you got to do a lot of things for the first time, so you don't know how it's going to be received. You don't know if it's going to work your first time around. You're just facing a lot of unknown. So if you're not, what happens with people, this is what happened with me. I wasn't clear enough on my vision to take the leaps, you know? And so people get stuck, and they'll stay in a situation for years. They'll stay in a job that, you know, doesn't really align with their soul's purpose, doesn't really make them happy. It's not what they want to do until, you know, the end of their life. So the first thing is to find a way to get that clarity where it's undeniable. You know, you have to admit it to yourself. This is what I'm here to do.
And what is that? Is that process there? I can imagine people would maybe hit some snags or have that self-doubt come in. Like, what are the common snags, and what are the common that process like? And does it take long? Is that what happens over the days, or is it happened over the weeks or the months? Or
it happens over the whole process. You know, there are very few people that I could sit down with for an hour and they would get that much clarity. There's too much old momentum, you know, because we were in school for decades. We've been living our life and having certain thoughts for decades. So it takes something to go in past that. You know, it's almost like those are layers, and you got to get in past that. So it takes something to get in past that. And the questions that are part of my process are really sneaky. They ask you things that you don't have resistance to, you know, because if I just say, what's your soul's purpose? You're like, if I knew, I would just be doing it, you know.
I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, I'd be doing it. If I knew what it was, I would be doing it, you know.
Right.
So you know, it's I've been working on this stuff for like since 2010 now, you know, and 40 retreats, and finding these questions, and the sequence is important too. You know, you start with too big of a question at the beginning, and it shuts people down, you know. So you got to start with these questions that allow you to kind of the barriers to drop and get in and actually get into the core of your being, you know, your purpose. So that's one thing. And the other is that it's okay to, what I tell people when they're about to start this process is, you know, there's kind of two things that can happen during this process. For about half the people that started, you're on this steady upward spiral, and every exercise you get more clear and more excited, and then you just keep going up, and then you clarify your vision, and it's like fireworks. And the other half of people, they go up, and then they freak out about something. You know, there's something that gets triggered, and and that's fine. And this is just kind of a byproduct of what happens when someone is getting you to think about what truly inspires you. And there are some old ways that don't want to die, And so they're going to push your buttons, and they're going to say, hey, you should stop this process. It's pissing you off, or it's making you feel scared. But it really, in my viewpoint of it, is kind of like an old way of being. It really is almost like a living thing, and it doesn't want to die. And when it feels threatened, when it sees that you're actually making progress, it's going to, like I said, push your buttons. It's going to throw real life scenarios at you, things that are going to steer you off course, and it's just up to you to take that as a sign of like, hey, I'm making progress here. Otherwise I wouldn't be feeling like this. And so it's just to have that awareness of like, you could freak out, you could feel, some really strong negative emotion. Just be present with it, communicate about it if you want to. I'm here, I just want to support you. And but if you just keep going, you're going to get through this, and you come out the other side with feeling high, feeling clear, and then you can see like, okay, that was just a temporary dip, and now I'm way up here.
And is there a like a way that, I guess, is there an ideal place to be in, like an ideal state or an ideal place to be in before you come to something like this, or whether it's, whether you come to your VisionQuest, or whether you're just doing it in your own life, is there an ideal place to be in terms of internally? Like, is there a readiness that people need, or will that come with the process? Or
from what I've seen, people just know. The people who come to me, I ask them how, why did you come? And they were like, most people come through word of mouth. They're like, my friend told me about it, said I had to do it. I looked at your website and the hairs on my arms stood up. And I didn't even like finish reading your website. I just knew that this was
an inner knowing and intuition.
Yeah. So that seems to be people's experience pretty commonly. And I think, so follow that, whether it's my program or someone else's program, that sense that's just like, this feels right. It feels exciting. Might feel a little scary, but it feels right. That's the biggest indicator. Yeah.
And in terms of, do you see people who like, because something that, being in this industry for a long time, with the coaching, with the, the clarity, the mindfulness, all this stuff, personal development, I guess, is you get some people who are just like addicted to the workshop or addicted to the thing, but then don't actually take the action, or, make the changes, or have the transformation, or they might see little bits of it, but it's like a slow process. Is there a kind of a key element to the people who have the big changes and the big transformation versus those who get a bit addicted to the actual processes themselves?
Sure. Well, a couple of things. So one is that's something that I bring up. It's like, it's in one of the lessons. That's like, if there comes a time when you've read enough books, you've been the student long enough, and getting that one more certification or doing that next training is not going to get you closer to your big dream. It's time to just create and give what you're here to give. So just to have people be aware of that is powerful. The next thing is that I saw over the years that there was a little bit of, I was kind of leaving people hanging a little bit at the end of the retreats, because they get this vision. Everyone's on fire, like the most clear they've ever been. And say half the people would go home, you go back to the old momentum, literally, in your life. You go back to where you live. It's all a result of the past, where you're living, your friends, your community, your job, and
all the same old triggers.
People, yeah. And some people were able to just run with it. They got the clarity that they needed, and they had their nature was to take action. And they just ran with it. And other people, I would catch up with them like 2 years later, and I'm like, tell me what's been happening. And they're like, everyone had some at least small successes to report. We use something called a bucket list, which is your 5-year bucket list. So everyone's got some things that they wrote down that they're like, yeah, I did this, I learned to do this, amazing. But it would be like, I'm still in that job that you know, stoked about. It just supports me, you know.
Mm.
And I'm like, man, like, this is your life. Like, this is how you spend the majority of your days, you know, and try to get them back in touch with that feeling of what they really want to do. And that would kind of break my heart a little bit, you know, when I knew what they're capable of, but something was holding them back from taking the bigger, like the really most important leaps. So I created a follow-up program that is more about the left brain following through, masculine,
Implementation.
taking action
Implementation
side
stuff.
of things.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
about the implementing the vision.
Integration
And
and
it's
implementation, right?
exactly.
Mm.
So it's and this is it. It's basically based on Stephen Covey's principle of putting first things first.
Yeah.
And a mentor of mine back in my days when I had a surf lesson business in Malibu, super successful guy, he gave me that book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that habit just turned me on. I was like, this is so amazing. Like,
This is
actually,
the high priority and important tasks.
yes. It's being able to stay focused long term on whatever is most important to you.
Mm.
So, and in Covey's research, you know, because he worked with, you know, corporations and leaders for decades, and in their research, this was the habit that people most struggled with, was staying focused on those things long term. So he created, he actually wrote a separate book called Putting First Things First, and he taught a weekly planning process. And I started doing that process years ago. I did it off and on in my life, and every time I would do it for a period, things would be like lubricated into fast forward. Like I was riding a water slide going forward. You know, it was like, whoa, things start happening really fast when you just keep that attention and the action flowing on what's most important.
Mm.
So I took that process and I adapted it to your vision, the vision that you clarify. And it's very practical. You choose a most important dream for the year, and then you look at your most important milestones, your most important actions, and then the other roles in your life that are important, you know, your health and your family and your spiritual connection. And just putting in, you know, he uses that big rock analogy of putting the big rocks in first before you fill up the jar with the gravel and the sand and the water and all the other stuff of life. So that's a process that I teach people in. It's kind of like a level 2 program to be able to implement your vision. And it's really simple, powerful process. So yeah.
Keeping it simple, keeping it super simple. I think that's one of my themes for the year, actually. And that long-term thing as well, even with this podcast, I was like, it's a concept that works well for me. It's like, if I find something that works, just like stick with it. It's something that has always stuck with me, is that there's two rules. This came during the commentary and watching the tennis one day. I think it was Australian Open or something, way back in early 90s. One of the commentators said there's 2 rules in tennis. The first one is, if you've got a winning game plan, stick with it. Never change your winning game plan. And the rule number 2 is, if you've got a losing game plan, always change it quickly. And that just stuck with me. It's like, just quickly change it if it's not working, and if it is working, just stick with it. And similar with this podcast, it's like my goal is 1,000 episodes. You know, if I do 1,000 episodes, I'm bound to learn something. Same with my Brazilian jiu-jitsu training. I'm like, I'm going to do this for 10 years, see what happens. You know, and if by 10 years I should have learned something by then. And similar with Qigong, I'm like, I'm going to do 10,000 days of this, and then I'm bound to learn something. It's just this kind of longer term thinking. And I feel that really helps with that concept that you're talking about, that Covey mentioned. Yeah.
And, you know, you can, one way to see if you have a winning game plan is if things are flowing. You know, this is a, you know, big, you're into the flow. And, you know, like the way I kind of fell into your lap, you know, and the MMA guys fall into your lap, and it's like you're getting this confirmation, you're in the flow, and you're attracting the right people, and it's easy and it's simple. And that's another thing I help people to pay attention to. Like, where is life is always helping you. It's
Mm.
always flowing you forward. If it flows you into a closed door, it's just flowing you to another one that's open, you know? So, yeah.
100%, 100%. And we were talking about kids earlier. You got a house full of kids. What is the how has that changed things for you, and what are some of the learnings or the lessons around kids? Because I know my kids teach me a lot. I know, and people mention this a lot, that like kids can be the biggest teachers. For you, what that journey been like for you?
Well, my daughter's 13. My son just turned 8. Let's see. There, you know, I think that one of my favorite lessons that's come from it is their mom and I, we split up like 6 years ago. But we're great friends now. And, you know, when I come back, I live like half in Bali, half in Australia. When I'm in Australia, I'm with them, staying with them. And, so, I mean, one is just that vision of if you have an ex, if you split up, your family, your family can evolve into something that is indefinable and more beautiful than you could imagine. You know, like, this is one of the most fulfilling parts of my life, is our family dynamic.
Mm.
So there's just that. I just love giving people hope about that, because it can be a really painful thing, you know, if you split up, and it can just be so painful. And we were there for a little while, for a few years, you know, but now it's one of the biggest sources of joy in my life. So I just want people to know that that's possible, you know.
What you make of it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing is, we try to, I guess, basically interfere in our kids' lives as little as possible. Like, let them be themselves and choose what they want to do, and choose if they go to school or not. Like, neither of my kids right now are in school, and they really haven't. My son has never been. My daughter, she's 13. She was in school when she was young, like 5, 6 years old. Then we took her out, and we were traveling back to the States for an extended period, and then she just never went back to school. It's this unschooling concept, that's about, you know, let your kids do what they are passionate about, and they're going to learn through that. They're going to learn to read and write. They're going to learn math, and they're going to learn through their interests and their passions, and the thrill for learning is going to stay alive, you know, because as humans, we love learning what we love learning, but that oftentimes in school, it takes the fun out of learning, because you got to learn about a whole bunch of stuff that you don't care about.
Regimented.
So, yeah. And how sad to, like, become an adult and be like, I don't really, you know, the thrill of learning has just been drilled out of me, you know. So the vision is that they stay connected to that, and to their own passion, and they're both really confident, you know, self-motivated, beautiful little beings, you know.
Great.
So that's been really cool to be a part of, and it's kind of, you know, it's an experiment, because it's not the norm. But when you spend time around them, you see a different, something that's not in most kids who are in school, you know. And school can be amazing for some kids. Like, you know, some kids, that format is what turns them on. They love the academic side. They love the format of being in a classroom, having the teacher, and learning about things. So, but it's just doing what's right for your kids, you know, and being tuned into that. My daughter she went to school last year. She got inspired about going to school. She went to school. She loved it. And but then her mom moved to, you know, different part of Australia, so she's not in school right now. But
Is that something that you have, like, are there implications in terms of, like, I don't know, governing bodies, or is there like people's opinions, like friends and stuff? Like, is that all of that stuff sort of come in to take into account when doing stuff like this? Or
yeah, well, with say the governing bodies stuff, you may have to kind of create a curriculum. It doesn't have to be like a super structured homeschool curriculum, but you can kind of create your own thing and show that, you know, how your kids are learning, what they're learning. And, for example, in the last year, my daughter has been in Tasmania and, different places in Australia. Both my kids, were in the States with me for a month. They were both in Bali for a month separately. So, they're exposed to things that kids who are in school aren't exposed to. So you just show how they're learning, what they're writing, what they're creating, and that actually satisfies, whatever the sort of official requirements are.
And how involved is that in terms of like, is it I don't know, you said it doesn't have to be that structured, but is it like an amount of hours per week or per month that you give them kind of particular curriculum, like you said, or what does that kind of look like in terms of your day-to-day, like your time and investment in that learning?
Yeah, it's totally with us. It's totally free flowing. Like my daughter at 13 is, she's just proactive about it. Like she kind of has designed her own curriculum that's, it's like she goes to painting class, she goes to silks, she has found an app that helps her learn math, and we'll pick up like math workbooks and do those together. And so she's kind of collected these subjects that she's excited about and spends some time every day doing those, but she's really self-directed with it. And my son's 8, he's a little wild man. And, I read to him every day. I read to him often, like in the day for a chunk, and then at night before bed for a chunk. And, we're working on letters and, reading words and stuff. But, this was kind of the journey, like say with my daughter, she learned, kids in school will learn to read at like 6 or 7 years old. And she wasn't reading well at that age, and you kind of freak out and you're like, is she ever going to learn to read? And then it was just like something clicked one day when she was about 8 years old or maybe 9. And I remember we were off on a walk somewhere in the Gold Coast hinterland, and there were like the signs of, describing the area or whatever. And she just started reading the sign, like reading it out loud and reading it, at a good pace. And I was just like, damn, that is so cool.
That is so cool.
She had her own pace, and now she's confident to read out loud, because a lot of kids who like learn to read in school, they don't feel confident to read out loud. So, there's a lot of trust in this process.
Yeah, it's super cool. Like just the speed that they learn at, like the little humans, like reading with my son, and just like week by week, even my daughter, because my kids are like 3 and 5 respectively. And it's just incredible like from week to week, like, what? How did you know that? Or like my son's adding up numbers. He's telling me 8 and 8 is plus 2 is 18. I'm like, how the hell do you know that? It's just crazy. And then, and doing the shoelaces as well. I'm like, yo, look, I'm going to tie the shoelace up, and I'm tying his shoelace up. And I'm like, look at this, look at my eyes. Just look, I'm tying your shoelace up while looking in your eyes. I'm not even looking. That's magical, isn't it? He's like, whoa.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm like, yeah, if you keep practicing this, one day you'll be able to do it too.
Yeah.
It's an amazing.
So you have the 5-year-old is a girl?
That's my son. That's my son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And the 3-year-old's a girl?
Yeah.
All right.
Got one of each.
So it's such an adventure, and it's just magical when you let them be themselves as much as you can, and notice it when you're like, hey, don't do that. If you're saying that, if it's really something they shouldn't do, if that was part of what your parents said to you, and catch yourself. And
it's like, what? I'm loving the kookaburra in the background. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Australia.
We back up onto this, like these big trees, and the cuckoos we have this kookaburra chorus.
Yes.
Every morning. There's actually Pia, that's my kid's mom's name. She's got a little cottage that she Airbnbs down here. It's called Kuka Cottage, because you're right front and center for the kookaburras. Too
cute. And in terms of this stuff as well, like the visioning stuff with the kids, you bring them along to the retreats and stuff as well, or?
They come They come sometimes. It's more occasionally, but yeah, they've both been there. They've been there for about maybe about 4 or 5 retreats. My daughter, I hired her to be my assistant on one of my retreats last year, and she's great at, like, choreographing people and engaging with adults and everything. So yeah, so they're there sometimes.
Yeah. Is it age appropriate? Like, you have kids come to your retreats as well, or?
Not generally. I mean, for the parents, sometimes I have parents asking, and I say, the benefits will go deeper if they can devote 100% of their attention to this process.
So you don't have like childcare or something that people can bring their kids in?
No, not right now. It really is the retreat format as it is now. It's an adventure retreat. Like we ride. It's on a small island off of Bali, and we're riding motorbikes around, and surfing or learning to surf most days, and cliff jumping and snorkeling, and so right now it's not designed for kids to be there as well.
Kid friendly just yet. No, it's super cool. I love the concept as well. Like, going forward, I have a similar vision with like having a center where people come to learn exactly what they came here to do. Essentially it's like that vision, getting in touch with the purpose of why people came here, and trying out a whole bunch of different things that, until, like, if people who are seeking, I don't really know why I'm here, but I have an idea that I want to know, and they'll come and they'll try different things in all the different areas. It could be, they'll try something like cooking, or they'll try something culinary, or they'll try something physical, or they'll try something academic, or they'll try something scientific or biology, or like all the different kind of things, artistic. And then they'll find one that just gives them that juice, and gives them that aliveness, and they feel that flow from. And then it's like, all right, cool. There's people who have been here, whether they're 5 years old or whether they're 85 years old, who have been doing it, and that's their thing, and you learn from each other. So it's definitely something that I have in my vision as well, like these kind of centers and these kind of spaces where people can explore that stuff.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, the world needs it, and I think people on a bigger and bigger scale right now are waking up that there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way to live our lives than working jobs that don't make you feel totally happy and excited. And I want to bring up the roots of what I started doing. I used to call it surf life. As I said, it was really about tuning into that flow in your life. And it wasn't until a little bit later that I realized, hey, the first step in that is clarifying your vision, because then you can do the flow on purpose. You don't have to guess what are the things that give me the flow. You can say, you clarify, go, those are the things that give me the flow. How can I build that into my life so the flow is a part of my life? And like you said, it's trying those different things and feeling what gives you the flow, because I think that's what we really want, is to live in that flow. And I don't think you can live there all the time. There's times when the flow is flowing and the flow stops flowing, and that's all part of the flow. But to pay attention to that sense of flow, and to really appreciate it when you find it, when you're in it, to be like, this is the flow. Like,
give thanks for it.
This is what I love. Yeah. And there's one more thing I wanted to say about that. It'll come back to me.
Is it the paying attention to it, or like tracking where you feel the flow, or like keeping?
Well, here's what it is. It's that you could make a ton of money and not feel the flow, and then you're just not enjoying your money, or you could be in a relationship where you've lost your flow, or your way of being, your way of thinking, and you've lost your flow. And what you want, and from what I've seen, what you want is the flow, So focus on the flow.
What are some ways that you personally go about like tracking that for yourself? Is it like writing it down? Is it just paying attention to it? Is it speaking it out loud? Like, in terms of, because that's something that helps a lot of people I work with, is just the simple act of writing down 3 things you're grateful for each day, or writing down 3 things rather than a to-do list, a have done list. Like, what are my successes from the day? And then at the end of the week, just tracking what were my wins this week, because it's so easy to go, you know, how was your year this year? Oh, it was terrible. I lost my friend, and I you know, I've been working in this job that I haven't been, like, it's easy to pay attention to all the shitty stuff in life, but as soon as we start tracking the wins, we realize, fuck, actually life's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, that's a little bit like that process that I was telling you about, the weekly implementation process. A couple things are the two key concepts or questions that I've seen that help you get back in the flow really quickly are, what do I appreciate? That's the gratitude, you know, and realizing that, like you said, your life is amazing. Whether or not you are thinking those thoughts and just acknowledging it, your life is so amazing, you know. You're healthy. If you're listening to this, like, you're winning, you know, like you're probably healthy. You've got opportunities, you've got love, you've got family, you've got, you know, you're smart. So it's just kind of counting your blessings, you know, keeping your attention on those things, and it changes how you feel, and you start to see the opportunities that are the next level, you know. And the other question is, what inspires me? And that's so how I see it is what do I appreciate is like the foundation of where you're standing. What inspires me is like what you're reaching for, and you kind of like connecting these two things together. It's like an electrical current, connecting the foundation with what you're reaching for, and boom, once those things connect, then there's that flow of energy, you know.
Very empowering.
So those two questions, you know, are really powerful for getting back in the flow. And the other is clarifying what's truly important to you and doing it. Something happens, you know, when you can look back on your day and you can go, whoa, that thing felt a little bit scary while I was doing it, because it is truly important to me. And I really wanted to work out well, but I don't know how it's going to work out yet, but I did it. And you feel good in your heart. And those are the things those are the actions that are going to change your life. The ones that other people see, the ones that are for other people, for other people's eyes, you know? So those two things, yeah, the questions of appreciation and inspiration, and actually doing what's most important.
Implementation. It's like the intention, the attention, then doing the thing.
Yeah.
What for you in terms of, are you a like consumer of audios and books, and like do you listen to podcasts or read any blogs or?
Yeah, the overall theme in my life of the last probably 6 years as I've been creating this process, it's been a period of where I have stopped most of my consumption because it was taking time away from the creation. So this is part of that thing of like, you know, you've done enough courses, you've read enough books, it's time to create the content and serve other people with it. But what I have listened to most is Abraham Hicks recordings, you know, their seminars and their books online. When I started listening to their stuff back in 2010, that was right before things took a huge change in my life. And I think that helped me kind of find my vibrational alignment with my vision. Shook things up in my marriage and in my work, and things changed really quickly. And it was a bit painful for a little while, the abruptness of that change. But it led me to the life that I'm living now, which, you know, so many things have happened that I thought were just impossible dreams.
Such as?
That. Moving to Bali, which is where I, you know, live half time now. Doing this work with people. You know, I went from a place where this was that distant dream in my heart to run a spiritual surf trip and to have this impact on people. It went from where I just finally got the guts up to run the first one, and now, you know, I've done 40, and like you said, there have been like countless magical moments on these retreats, you know, and they've planted seeds that are just sending ripples out that are going, you know, like my client Adam Hudson, you know, like, you my ripples go out to him and it awakens something in him, and then he goes out and he's got 4,000 clients of his own that he's, awakening in his way, and then they go out and they're inspired about what they're doing and they go out and spread it to other people, so the ripples are immeasurable.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing that reach that you can have, just by touching someone and just by having the courage to step into the scary thing or the thing we have no idea how it's going to go. Like you said, it's there's power in that. It's like, wow, people feel it, people go, they get inspired by that, by that, that reaching into that inspiration. It's a cool thing. So thank you for doing the work. I appreciate it. And, us connecting, and I'm sure that there'll be people listening to this, and hopefully if even one person gets inspired to try something that they're scared of, or to clarify their vision, or to tap into what gives them that aliveness and that flow, that then it's a job. I feel like the job is done in a way.
Yeah, for sure. And so one thing I skipped over that I just remembered is that belief that I had that it was, it's up to you to figure out your journey and me to figure out my journey. And what I saw from running that first retreat was that we are here to uplift each other, and it's like a web, and we interconnect. And then when one part lifts, it lifts up everyone else. And there are things, there are things that are related to my purpose that come naturally to me. This is the way that I'm here to uplift and empower other people. And then you're here to do something different. And we're actually here to lift each other up. So I help you in an area of your life, and you help me in an area of my life. And it's this exchange that we all lift each other up. And now I'm a firm believer that hey, I'm not here to figure this out on my own. That was really what cut me off from the flow for, 10 years of my life in that way of fulfilling my purpose and having that sense of fulfillment. So, and it's just such a more fun way to look at life and to be open to other people, and to, when you feel that impulse of I can help them, I know what to say, or I know I have something I can offer them, and to be able to ask for help, because it's not that you can't do everything, and not everything comes easy to you. So it just brings that sense of ease to the giving and the receiving in life, and we all raise up.
Yeah, there's no shame in not knowing, right?
Yeah.
I guess what's exciting you going forward? What's to come? Is there some? Is you gonna keep running these retreats? Is there some new pieces in the pipelines, or part of the plan?
There is. I guess one thing is it's been, the VisionQuest has been growing so far by word of mouth, just for 6 years. And the marketing side of it is not something that comes naturally to me. So I've recently asked for help with that. So that's going to be stepping up, where people who don't know me or one of my participants are going to be finding out about it. So that's super exciting. And then I've got something in my sights for an evolution of the retreats. Right now it's really an adventure-based retreat, which is awesome and which is fun. But there's a lot of people who are perfect for this process, but might not want to come and learn to surf, and
jump off cliffs
do backflips off of 10-meter high cliffs and stuff, and that was a big part of my vision at the beginning, the spiritual surf trip side of things. And and it is awesome, and I might hang on to one or two of those style retreats every year, but I'm going to be making a version that's a bit more. There's kind of two evolutions. One is a 5-day retreat that is still active. We'll still do a yoga class in the morning. Do some. Is another thing I really like is ecstatic dance, where you just have a sick DJ and an awesome group of people, and everyone's sober.
Super powerful. It's super powerful for that hive group connection. It's super powerful to everyone to just drop into that state of mindlessness. So it's like mindfulness, but it's like mindlessness. It really.
Yeah, and it's just fun. you know, it's just fun to feel that sense of flow, because I still want to bring this sense of flow into the experience and it being physical, you know.
But without necessarily having to do crazy stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And we still, if we're on the coast, we'll probably still do 1 or 2 surf lessons, you know, but have to be a bit shorter, like 5 days. So it's just more accessible for people and a wider range of people to come.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then another thing I want to do is create a 3-day version that I travel with. So I have my team that's like the DJ and the event planner and stuff. And we go around to, say, like 10 cities around the world where I've already got a base of clients. This is, you know, like San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, San Diego, London, Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, something like that, to do like a tour and take this event around to people, and make it super accessible for people and accessible for people to review.
Yeah.
Because it really is something that when you do, it builds momentum. When you do it the second time or the third time, like it builds. And so I want to give that to people and make it more accessible. Exciting
stuff. Yeah, it's a good thing. It's like seeing people do their thing and see it come to life it's a beautiful thing. So thank you again for connecting. We've been talking, like an underlying theme that I've been feeling throughout this conversation is the power in questions. So like the quality of the life is equal to the quality of the questions we ask. So for you, have you like a list of questions or some questions you ask yourself or you ask your clients that really help you get that clarity of the vision, or just enable you to empower your own life as opposed to disempower yourself or your own life?
Yeah, well, like I said, those questions of what do I appreciate and what inspires me, was a great place to start. And what usually happens when you ask those questions is you see the next step, because that's really, we just want to know what to do. You know, we got this energy, we want to know how to apply it to actually create what's truly important to us, you know.
So is that a question you'd ask the listeners now? Like, ask yourself and answer that question now and see what comes up, and then take it, once you've answered those questions, ask it again on a deeper level? Or
well, it's like just write a list of 10 things that you appreciate, and then 10 things that inspire you, and be open at any moment in that of writing down ideas for what the next steps are. Cool. Like what actions can you take? And usually once you start to get in that vibration of those questions, you start to see that you're much further along the road than you thought you were. And you start to see those steps that are going to take you even closer. So write those down. And then once you get that idea and that impulse, do it, like take the action on it. So that's the power in those questions. Another one is the most powerful time to do this kind of writing I found is early in the morning. So we do something in the program called a silent sunrise session from 5:30 to 6 a.m. You light a candle, got your workbook, and that's when you start your work. You don't talk to anyone, you don't look at anyone, you don't check Facebook or email. You go straight from that, just kind of waking up and being a little bit fresh and groggy, into this. And you have access to messages that are harder to access once you're in the momentum of the world, you know? So starting early like that is powerful. But what you can do is at night, the night before, you can write down, just think, okay, what would I like to understand better? What would I like to change or manifest in my life? What do I want some guidance on? And you write it down. And you can write, you know, I write, dear inner knowing, or dear inner being.
So it's like a conversation, like a two-way.
What the topic is, what the question is. I'll usually write, can you share your perspective on this? And then you put the pen down, but you got that blank sheet of paper by your bed, and you go to sleep, you let it go. And I don't know what happens, if it's your subconscious that chews on it, or, you know, who knows what happens. But you wake up in the morning to that blank piece of paper and get a glass of water and light your candle. And I'll set a timer for 30 minutes. And you just sit down and you write whatever, you listen and you write whatever comes. Yeah. And usually people get some kind of a very practical kind of insight. You know, they'll get an answer that helps them feel more peaceful and excited.
I've lost you. Hold on a sec. You've gone you've gone silent all of a sudden. I've lost your audio. And we're back. We're back again.
All right. Sorry about that. Do you remember where it cut out? I was talking about asking the question at night and writing the answer in the morning.
Sit down with a candle for half an hour, set a timer, and then the subconscious mind will feed it to us. The insights will come. Often will come. And if they don't, that's cool too, I imagine.
Yes. It's the process of the making space and listening. One, just that puts you in that meditative space. You're getting the benefits as if you're meditating. And if the answers come, awesome. And usually answers come, whether it's about it might even be about a different question or something else, but it's something that feels good to write and to think about. So it serves its purpose either way. Beautiful.
Thank you for your time. I'm going to head off. I've got some friends coming to town. I've got to go pick them up from the station and stuff. So it's been a pleasure. So thank you so much for your time. And also just to leave people on, is there anything that wants to flow through you right now, just to leave with the listeners?
It's just if you have that thing that you've been dreaming about doing, and if you have enough of an idea, to just start it somehow, start it on a small scale, start it for free, start it with your friends, just start it. My biggest regret in my life, I don't really believe in regrets, but if I had one, it was that I just didn't start this sooner. It's like, how many more people would have been through this process, and how much further would the ripples have gone, and that's how you're going to feel too. Is like, man, why did I wait so long to do this? I knew I wanted to do it, and it was just the fear that kept you from it. So don't rob yourself of the joy and the fulfillment that comes from doing these things that you've been dreaming about, and don't rob other people of it. It's really for other people.
And it's also like that. Don't have to reach that point of getting so angry at yourself. So like you can avoid yourself the pain of that. It might be regret, or it might be whatever it is. You can just get started now in a small scale, like you said, and just give it a whirl. What have you got to lose at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
You've tried something. You've learned something.
Yeah. Thanks, Ulla. Thanks for having me. Thanks for reaching out. And great questions and great flow.
My absolute pleasure. You have an amazing day. Enjoy the craziness at your place at the Kuka Cottage.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
The Kuka Cottage. All right. Thank you so much. And thanks for listening, guys. Until next time, keep the flow growing and the growth flowing.